Welcome to the Best by the Worst. The best movies of all time, reviewed by the worst possible critics. If you don't believe us, keep listening to find out. Welcome back, Alex.
Welcome back, Barrett.
What are we drinking today?
Welcome back to my podcast, the special guest, Barrett.
It's not your podcast. We've been through this.
Look at that. Perfect pour, perfect size beer.
Oh, no. Does it fit? Did yours fit?
Yeah, perfectly.
Have
you ever poured a beer before,
I
mate?
biffed this.
You do what I did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got this on camera. Perfect beer, not perfect beer.
Yeah, but last time you exploded it ever, at least I didn't do that.
Well, it was an accidental explosion. It was premature. Too much carbonation in the can.
Great.
Yeah. Welcome back. So what are we drinking, Barrett?
We're drinking a beer very near and dear to our hearts. Gage Roads Brewing Little Dove. It's a New World Pale Ale. I always am fascinated by the colour of this beer because it's super clear and very golden.
Yes. It's a bit of a classic, isn't it? I remember back in the day when we were like getting into craft beer, for the first time, or early days of that anyway. This is one of those beers that kind of introduced us to craft beer.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
and do you remember the first time we tried it?
Yeah, because we went to a pub to search for it, didn't we?
We went
It was pretty hard to find. Yeah.
And
We found it at Clancy's.
No, we found it before then.
Oh, we did. It was in Vic Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Balmoral.
Yeah.
And do you remember what happened?
No. There was only one left.
I ordered 4 pints because there was 4 of us.
Yep.
And the guy started pouring the beer, got 1 pint, and I think he got a tiny bit into the second one, and the keg ran out. And we're like, oh, just go change the keg then. He's like, that was it.
Yeah.
There is no more. So,
tell you what, it tastes like how I remembered it, because they only do a special like limited release now, because it used to be like pretty common beer for a while. But yeah, it tastes good.
yeah. And so we got the guy to pour it into schooner glasses.
That's
so we
how
could
we
all
share.
have like a little bit
that's
each.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that these days. Just would have drinking it right in front of you.
Wow. Aggressive.
Yep. Barrett, another week, another movie has been watched.
Yeah.
What have we watched this week?
The Life of Emile Zola.
Emile. I think it's Emile.
Emile?
Yeah.
I just read the E. I'm not good with the English.
Yeah, words are hard.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Kind of like the word heron. And what was the other one that you were a little bit...
Perplexed by?
Yeah, ironically, you know the word perplexed, but you don't know the word fictitious.
Okay. Can I get our intro out of the way first? Because, the slander
Sure,
started early and I just want to really intro our listeners.
Just for context, when we were watching the movie, they had a bit of an intro slide with some writing on it, and it had the word heron, which is obviously not a very common word these days, but fictitious was another one that threw Barrett, and I laughed. Back to the intro.
Thank you. All right. So, we are the Best by the Worst.
Yes.
We're reviewing every movie to have ever won Best Picture. There's going to be spoilers. Mm-hmm. We're going to do our best to bring in...
Not that kind of podcast, Barrett.
No, it's not that kind of podcast. Not until at least the 60s when the Hays Code finishes.
Yes.
We're going to do our best to bring some themes in. Alex has been more successful than me.
Well, I think we're finding our rhythm, though. I really do.
Yeah, I've gotten all the words wrong today. If you've just found us, go back and listen. This is what episode number is this?
It's the Big 10.
We've done it.
Episode 10, mate.
Do you know?
No one thought we'd make it this far.
Absolutely no one.
It's amazing what you can do when you have lots of money and time.
We don't have either of those things.
Yeah, we do. Compared to the common man.
Wow. Lost touch with the common man.
I think we both have.
All right. Do you want to do the year first, or do you want me to intro the movie first?
Intro the movie, mate.
All right.
Go for it.
Oh, this is a little bit weird with this cable cutting straight through the middle of my sheet. You're looking at it going, how's he going to read that? Don't know. All right, so we watched the 1937 winner of Best Picture, The Life of Emile Zola.
Yeah, well, I think it's Emile. We'll go with Emile.
Yep. Had a budget of $699,000. which is 15.2 million in today's money.
Yep.
All the actors are dead.
Yep.
But even
one day we'll find one that's alive.
no, we're getting close.
Ooh.
So the Dreyfus,
Yeah.
who we'll talk about later and explain who they are, they had kids in the movie, and those kids were credited. So I went looking for them.
Yep.
Died in 2015.
Well, that's pretty close.
Yeah, so we're getting there.
Wow.
So, we probably don't need to look for it. Like, at least a couple more episodes.
But I'm loving the commitment, because when we find someone that's still alive, it's going to be a big moment.
Yeah. We'll try to get them on the phone.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool.
The movie was weird. So for a plot description, I would almost describe the movie happening in two parts. There was sort of the life of Zola and his progression to fame. Then there was a guy named Dreyfus. Well, these are surnames, by the way. It's just easier for my brain to say. Alfred Dreyfus, I think it was. And he gets prosecuted with a treason charge in the French military or army.
Yep.
And then the stories come together, and Zola ends up sort of defending Dreyfus to a degree.
Yeah, so not that we would know, but it's based on Emile Zola's life. He was a real person and a writer, and this case called the Dreyfus Affair was a pretty famous case back in the day, right? So I knew nothing about it, admittedly. I don't know if you did, Barrett.
Nothing. Never heard of it in my life.
Yeah, so it was about a combination of that particular case that was really widespread and important for a number of sort of political reasons, I guess, for France at the time. And it's well known, probably more well known over there, or maybe we just failed school, who knows. But then also in combination with just telling the life of Emile Zola, who's obviously a key component of that case as well.
Yeah, we both did go to school in rural Australia.
Yeah, I would have preferred to go to your school though. I'll just put it out there. Yeah.
All right.
I learned how to make a shank. That's about as educated I got.
Yeah. I learned how to bale some wool.
Yeah, important life skill.
Yeah.
Just reminds me of Clarkson's Farm, which I've also watched. God, when can we review that? It's so good.
We're not.
Okay.
We're not. Back on track. All right.
So, to set the scene though, mate. So,
Yes.
Fun facts for 1937.
Yes, this is by far everyone's favourite part of the episode.
And I found some real good ones. I was really impressed with this year.
Yeah.
I think you're going to like them. All right, so to set the scene, 1937. Okay, the US Steel raises workers' wage to $5 a day.
The US who?
Steel. So steel workers.
Ah.
Yes, obviously steel manufacturing, they actually used to happen before it all went to China.
How much a day?
To $5 a day.
That seems like a lot.
In 1937,
Yeah.
$5 a day.
Yeah.
I would suggest you're getting paid more than $5 a day, Barrett.
But yeah, in the scheme of things.
I hope so. Next.
I guess, yeah, this movie was $700,000 a make, yeah. Probably.
Yeah, $5 a day isn't much. I think it's a fair raise.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Next one. So Henry Ford initiates a 32-hour work week.
Oh, he's the guy.
Well, he's that guy, that's for sure, because that 32-hour work week didn't last so long, did it? That would have been nice.
Well, they still pay you for 38 hours. They just make you do 50 to 60 hours of work.
This is 32 hours.
Yeah, but he introduced the 5 and 2 work week.
Yeah, it escalates, but I'm guessing it started 32 hours and then they just considered how could they further screw over the common man, and it just kept escalating.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, fun fact. The next one, so Toyota becomes an independent company.
Ooh, I think you've said it wrong.
What?
Toyota.
Yeah, Toyota.
No, with a D.
Yeah, I know.
They changed it later
Toyota.
to Toyota.
I'm saying Toyota.
Oh. It had a D in it until like the 70s.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
just don't get my Australian accent.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Your English accent.
Toyota.
Toyota.
Okay. And then two that are book/movie related, which I think is really important given our podcast. So The Hobbit is published in this year. Yeah, by
Not
Tolkien.
this again.
What do you mean again?
The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Is this to do with Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
I hate Lord of the Rings. And last night you told me we weren't allowed to watch Return of the King.
Are you trying to turn away all our movie buff fans. No one who enjoys movies can hate The Lord of the Rings. It's the movie of our generation.
Who said I enjoy movies?
Oh my god.
But you told me last night that when we watch Return of the King, we have to watch the movies leading up to it and do a 15-hour marathon.
Of course. Well, this is an important point to make for the podcast. There's some of the movies in this list, like The Lord of the Rings, only won Best Picture on its third movie. So Barrett was just anticipating we'd only watch the third movie and said, no, I'm not doing that. If I'm going to watch the third movie of Lord of the Rings, we have to watch the first two.
Yep.
Full extended edition in 4K HDR. 12-hour, 13-hour maybe, full session, one after another, no stopping.
I'm going to need
Binge.
a lot of beer.
Yep.
You wait till you hear the podcast that comes out after the
I
end
can't
of that.
wait. I'm so excited.
You think I slur words now?
I love the Lord of the Rings movies.
You know how far I got watching them?
Maybe we should watch all three Hobbit movies.
No, I've tried.
And then watch the three Lord of the Rings movies.
No, I've tried to watch it. There was like a scene where a guy puts on a ring and disappears. Mm-hmm. That's where I lost interest. I don't know where that happens in the movies.
It happens a lot.
He's in like a little Hobbit village thing. There's fireworks going off. He puts a ring on, disappears.
Happens a lot.
Don't know.
Oh, Barrett. Yeah. Sorry, listeners. Forgive Barrett. He just doesn't know what greatness is. We'll teach him. Also, in this year, Snow White, the first full-length animated film, comes out.
Hey!
Yeah.
Disney.
Classic.
Yeah.
Great cartoon. And an Australian fact, didn't find too much going on then, but this one's a pretty important one. So the Oz government adopt assimilation policies for Aboriginals to be like assimilated into, the rest of Australia, but it excluded full-blooded Aboriginals.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty intense.
So that's what they called progression back then?
Well, it was a step in the right direction, I guess. Not as many steps as we would have liked, but it was a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Good facts.
I thought so.
Good facts. I really like you had the steel, the cars.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
I feel like an asshole for correcting you on...
I had to do these facts under duress as well because, Barrett's on the clock, so we have to make sure we get this podcast done before he goes for dinner.
Yeah. Can't keep my wife waiting.
Exactly. Well, she can just take another nap on the couch next to us. All right.
I'm sure she'll love that.
Barrett, start us off with the movie. What happens, mate?
All right. 1862 is where we're going to start. Two men are in an attic. One is painting.
Yep.
And that's a guy named Paul.
Yeah, you got his name. I didn't. Great.
Yeah. And a guy is patching up holes in the roof. Well, the windows extend into the roof, being an attic. And he's trying to patch holes with like rags or something. And this is Zola.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know, his girlfriend / I think she becomes his wife, but I don't really know who she is
Yes,
at this
becomes
point.
his wife, yeah.
Yeah, she comes to visit him.
Do you know the name?
No, I didn't grab that.
It's Alexandrine. Alexandrine? Yeah, Alexandrine or Drine.
I feel like you should be able to pronounce that better, Alex.
Yeah, it's spelled wrong though.
So, Alexandrine, we're butchering that, definitely.
Yeah, or is it Alexandrine? Maybe there's no R.
Alexandrine
Can't read my own handwriting.
comes to visit. They think it's someone coming to collect rent.
Alexandrine.
Alexandrine.
I think it was Alexandrine.
How many minutes of the podcast can we spend trying to mispronounce Alexandrine?
I think it's Alexandrine.
Alex comes to...
Alex, yes, go on.
They think it's the landlord,
Yeah.
I presume. They don't have enough money to pay, so he's pretending he's got some horrible infectious flu.
Yeah.
Turns out it's her. She comes in. Then, I don't know. I'm really confused. When you're trying to take notes at the start of a movie that you've done absolutely no research into, the beginning is very confusing. They then start to rag on a whole heap of books that are in a bookshelf in front of them, saying that they're trash, and then they start putting them in a little fire pot, burning them.
Yep.
I don't understand.
I guess, honestly, if we were to sum up the first kind of intro parts of the movie, it's obviously introduce the characters. Zola is a bit of a writer, but also highlight that, they're broke and he's not a successful writer by any means.
No, definitely not.
And is working somewhere, but I didn't pick up what the job was?
Yeah, that...
He was doing some low-level job, right, just to make ends meet. He was making a bit of cash, but writing was his passion.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that ultimately brings him unstuck with his job.
So he writes his kind of like first proper book. Do you remember what that book was called?
Ooh, I think you're going to get this wrong.
Okay.
What do you think it's called?
No.
No. That's not the book he lost his job over.
Okay.
Yeah, so he wrote a book before that. I don't know the name. I definitely saw it.
Oh, right,
in
he
my
did.
reading.
He already pissed people off. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
And then ultimately lost his job. Then he meets this girl.
But hang on, the reason that he lost his job. So early on, we picked up that Zola. He was definitely writing about things that were a little bit taboo to talk about. If like they were criticizing the military or the government or structures like that, he would like to call them out. And the public weren't really ready to, or didn't like that a lot of the time. So he was getting himself into hot water by talking about things that the system didn't want him talking about.
Taboo. That's a word that's definitely changed meaning over the years.
Sure.
If that's what you would describe as taboo then, and then what we would describe as taboo now. Two very different categories on a website. So, I've broken Alex. So he's lost his job. He meets this girl and she's mourning the loss of her child.
Yep.
Her name is, was it Nana?
Yeah, I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's spelled Nana, so we'll just go Nana or Nana.
Nana. Let's go with Nana.
Nana.
That sounds more
Yep.
French than Nana.
Yeah.
So Nana, and then he names his book after her.
Yes.
The book that he's writing.
Yeah, so I did a bit of digging about what that book was about and who that person was. Don't know if you picked up on it.
Nope.
So the book was about, that woman, or girl named Nana. Fun fact, before we get to that, I'll tell you what it's about first. So Nana is a streetwalker, so she's a high-class prostitute, right? And these are the words the internet used, not me. So sex worker, basically. So she was a sex worker, and it was about like her life, and there's some spicy stuff that happened in the book, and it was just following her. And I think she kind of moves up the ladder in that industry, and yeah, I don't know. I didn't read the book, but that's what it's about.
Right, and he named that after her. What a touching tribute.
Well, it's about her. It's about her story as a streetwalker and then becoming a higher class prostitute.
Right.
And then obviously some other things happened that, I'll never know. But also, though, that book started selling extremely well.
Yeah, but I don't want to get to that yet. Because there's a scene that, I always leave a gap between things I write. Because sometimes I'll see something and then think back, I need to mention that because it pre-leads into this next scene. And the thing that I pre-wrote in there is he's walking down the street in the rain with a very broken umbrella.
Yeah.
Right? And a guy tries to sell him an umbrella. And he goes, why would I want to buy an umbrella when I've still got this challenge to deal with? And he's like looking at his broken umbrella or this to
That
deal
he
with.
can't afford it, right? So,
But he really can't afford it. But he's playing it off like he enjoys his broken umbrella.
Yeah.
How about a nice new umbrella, monsieur? But I can sell you beauty for only £2.50. And lose the privilege of arguing with my old friend? No thanks.
Goes into the bookshop, and this is where he's trying to sell his book, and asks for an advance.
Yeah.
He'll ask for some money. What does he ask for? Like a couple of
francs, not much.
francs, yeah. Is that what they're called?
Francs, yeah.
Yeah,
francs.
okay, yeah.
Zola. Monsieur Charpentier, I have a favor to ask.
Ah? Monsieur Zola has a favor to ask. And what is this favor, Monsieur Zola?
It's quite unusual, but could you advance me a few francs on Nana? I'm sure it will sell, monsieur.
So, ask for a couple of francs, not much money. The bookshop owner is kind of like, or maybe he's a publisher, I don't really, it doesn't matter.
Maybe both. Yeah.
But he kind of looks like he's going to say no.
Yeah.
This is the extent of the drama in the movie, by the way. This guy doesn't face too many challenges in his life. He just sort of plows through.
Well, I don't know. The second half of the movie, he got posed with some pretty significant challenges, Barrett.
Anyways. So we think he's going to say no, but then the guy at the bookshop says the book's a massive success. It's sold 36,000 copies.
Well, yeah, actually hands him an envelope. He's being all coy, right? So
Yeah.
he's like, well, why don't you read this first? Anyway, opens it up, reads the letter, and finds out that it's sold 36,000 copies in 3 days.
Yeah.
And he's made 18,000 franc.
Yeah.
So he's stoked. And he got a check in that same envelope as well.
Yeah. But the check's not really useful to him in this moment.
Yeah.
Because he then also immediately asks if he can borrow a couple of francs.
Could you still let me have a few franc in cash? I'll pay you back tomorrow.
So he can go buy a new umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah. And he still gets it, says he's going to pay him back the next day.
Yeah.
Goes out there, buys the umbrella, and is stoked.
Umbrella! Yes, of course. I'll have a dozen. I'll have 2 dozen. No, I'll have one. I'll have this. Yes. There you are.
So this is like the start of his meteoric rise around, publishing and writing books. He starts then writing a lot of books after that.
Yeah. So
He's blowing up.
he's blowing up, yeah, for sure. So Berlin War breaks out. We had to Google.
Yeah, the 1870 Franco-Prussian War,
Yep.
which Germany won. Yeah.
Okay.
So France lost that war. That was happening at that time. I got the feeling that Zola was critical of it, and I think maybe some of his writings were about that at the time. But yeah, Germany won that war, so I think France was a bit reeling after that. They were a bit vulnerable and sensitive.
Yeah, okay. And that really comes through in the movie. There had been a scene not long after that where they're reading a book that Zola's just written called The Downfall.
The Downfall, that's right, which criticised mistakes that the army made.
Yeah.
And at the time, the French army was looked at as the gold standard and couldn't be criticised. So they didn't take too kindly to his words.
No, and there's one sentence in there, we don't make mistakes. Yeah.
So they want to punish Zola for writing that book
Yes.
and for criticising, the government and the military.
Yes, yeah.
So it's hot in the crosshairs.
Yes.
This is also a point where I just want to pause for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
I can't remember how we got onto this, but around this point in the movie, as they were trying to punish Zola for writing that book, you told me that you haven't watched The Matrix.
Oh. Yes.
Not only is this dilemma with Lord of the Rings, it's already going to lose us half our viewers and listeners, but you also haven't watched The Matrix?
No.
Do you even movie?
No. I told you. This is why we're the worst critics.
I've watched these movies.
Well, I haven't. What do you want me to say? I haven't watched most of the movies in this list.
Oh, God
I
help
think
me.
looking forward, the first movie that I think I've seen is The Sound of Music.
Fair enough.
And then probably Titanic.
We've got some work to do, Barrett.
Yeah, you're going to be upset if I start rattling off the movies I haven't seen
Oh, God.
that I should have.
God.
Schindler's List? Haven't seen it.
So this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're trying to target Zola. What happens next?
He's planning a new book to expose the government. And then it just rolls into a montage of books, and it's just
He's
book
pumping
after
out the
book
books.
after
Yep.
book after book. I did actually have a note that I wanted to bring in here that he, this is disorganization at its finest. What number was it? Number 5. 45 books he wrote
Wow, in that time.
just in his career.
In the montage.
Not in the montage. I think it was
pretty
about
good, though.
There's about 15 books in the montage. It's just
Yeah.
like one. I was like, I was going to start writing them down.
Because it's time skipping in this time, too. I didn't really pick up how much time had passed, but I think it was pretty significant.
Yeah, this movie, again, bad for highlighting the time skips, except when Zola comes
Yes.
back onto the scene, he's aged by at least 20 years
Oh,
each
yeah,
time.
it looks way older. But yeah, they're real bad at kind of telling how much time has passed. But
Yeah.
I guess the montage showing all the books is written is to highlight, well, that must have taken a long time. So
Yeah.
I guess if we say one book per year, maybe 15 years have passed.
Yeah, feedback to the producer. Don't put timestamps in some parts of the movie and not others. Because sometimes it would
Yes.
flash up on the screen what year it was, and then they'll do a book montage of 15 books
Yeah.
and don't say what year it is.
Well, I guess what we can say is if the Franco-Prussian War is in 1870, and I think this Dreyfus case, which is really the second half of the movie, I thought it was like 1897,
Yeah, something,
right?
right around 1900, yeah.
Right, so then it must have been actually more closer to 30 years have gone by.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Just a small time skip.
yeah, big time skip. Okay, yep.
We then cut to a scene. He's having dinner with Paul. And there's just a little just throwback to the start of the movie then, where he still wants the windows sealed. He's asking his butler to go and seal up all the windows. He's like,
Yes.
could be a draft. And Paul's like,
That becomes important later.
yeah. Foreshadowing.
There's foreshadowing we didn't realise at the time, but there's
Yeah.
some foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
If only he didn't seal up those windows.
All right. That is about the point I'd say the movie stops about Zola.
That's the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
That if there was intermission, which there wasn't in this movie, that would be the halfway point. It's covered Zola's life, his earlier struggles, his now, pretty flamboyant success, his well-known, successful, and now it's leading into the second half of the movie, which is about the Dreyfus case.
I have to say we're probably about 50 minutes into the movie by now, 40 to 50 minutes, and I got up to go to the bathroom at this point, so if I missed a small detail, I don't know. But when I walked back in, there was a hand grabbing an envelope from a pigeonhole.
Yeah. So honestly, the first half of the movie was a bit boring. So I was really struggling with this movie in the first half because, again, it was just about this guy. It wasn't overly interesting. It was definitely not going to get a very high score for me at that time, but it definitely picked up in the second half, I felt.
Yeah. So there's a hand reaching in to grab a letter from a pigeonhole. I don't know if I missed anything before that. I was only gone for...
I was playing on my phone, so who knows?
We are great critics.
It was hard, that first half, Barrett.
It was, yeah. Leakage. There has been information leakage. Right?
Yes, so they've identified that confidential information has been leaked from the Russian army to the Germans, or Prussia, or whatever the hell it was at the time.
This accounts for the leakage in army information. How'd we get it?
The usual channel, sir. Our agent procured it at the German embassy.
Russian or French?
Yeah, so from the French army.
You said Russian.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
I said Prussia, to Prussia. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
the French army to Prussia,
Yeah.
which is Germany,
Yeah.
back then, who they lost the war to.
Yes.
So they identified that real important information had been leaked to Prussia.
Yeah, but I also want to point out that we've completely changed all of the characters in the movie. Zola's gone. We're now focusing on
Bunch of military dudes.
bunch of military dudes, and this information's been leaked. They're not happy. Someone's gonna
Yeah.
take the fall for this. They're going through this logbook, going, can't be him, and is it? And it's like they call out a guy that's in the room. Wouldn't have been you, would it? No.
Well, they were looking at the names, and I guess the early reason they looked at this one particular person was, again, access to information, and he was like a lifetime military person, but also he was a Jew, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And it didn't really, I don't think, capture too well in the movie, but there was, some anti-Semitism around, Jewish people even at that time, whether it was in France or in Europe, and I think he might have been, looked at more closely because of that. And then they used his handwriting to try and match it against the person, the information that was leaked.
Yeah.
To try and say it was him.
I've got an additional fact that's just going to weave in here perfectly. It's not something I wrote down, but I did read. All of the directors in Hollywood agreed that when they were producing movies during this time, they weren't going to do anything to alienate Hitler. That's why the whole Jewish thing was played down.
Right, okay, but it definitely was a thing.
So in real life, he was Jewish. In the movie, they're just like, that guy. And it doesn't make a lot of sense until you read the background. Yeah.
That was definitely part of the reason he was looked at.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. I think they wanted it to be him.
Yeah.
More than the evidence actually suggesting it was him.
About this fellow here, Dreyfus, Alfred.
I wonder how he ever became a member of the General Staff.
That's our man. Sonder, take action at once. Very good, sir.
Yeah. So they arrest him for treason, but as they're doing it, they put a gun on the table.
Well, yeah, they arrest him initially, tell him what he's done, and he's saying, I'm innocent. And then everyone else kind of leaves the room, and the more senior officer just leaves a gun on the table loaded and says, well, you can select this as the option out. And Dreyfus is like, what? No.
Yeah.
How is that an option? Literally just left a gun loaded on the table like, instead of being charged and convicted, may as well just shoot yourself. What?
Yeah, no. All right. So that's all going on. Zola, he's out shopping at this point, shopping for crayfish, I think, or some sort of sea creature, and he's just smelling them all. It's very, very weird.
It's weird, yeah.
Adds nothing to the movie, but he sees people protesting, doesn't really pay much attention to it at all. All right, we then cut to a scene where Dreyfus is getting...
Dreyfus,
sorry.
Yep.
Is getting kicked out of their army. So he's been prosecuted.
In the name of the people of France, Alfred Dreyfus, captain of the 14th Regiment of Artillery, having been found guilty of the crime of treason by unanimous vote of the court-martial, is condemned to deportation for life.
I'm innocent. For my wife and my children, I swear. I'm innocent.
yeah, getting wrecked by the government. I know all about that.
They're cutting all these things off his jacket.
Yeah,
they're going to parade him through the city.
He'd been in the army for 20 years at this point.
Given his whole life to the army, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
All right. Once they cut all of his military stuff off, they mess up his hat. They cut all the, he's left in this. They don't strip him, but they cut all of the military stuff off his uniform, so it's just like a blank uniform after that scene. And they deport him to a place called Devil's Island.
Devil's Island, yep. So that's where he's to be locked up, essentially.
Yeah.
Apparently treated pretty poorly, and that's where he was sent.
So I did some research into Devil's Island because I wanted to know more.
Go on.
It operated between 1852 and 1952.
Yep.
So 100 years it operated for. Although it wasn't portrayed well in the movie, the people were mostly free on the island.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he definitely wasn't free in the movie.
Yeah, but they couldn't go anywhere.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the case. 'Cause in Australia, we have a few convict-style prisons. I went to Tassie, I saw a few as well, and especially over there, they were on these islands.
Yeah.
Where they were able to roam free because they couldn't get anywhere, and people tried to escape, they just drowned.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that's kind of what was happening there. But something that I found funnier than I should have.
Yeah.
All right, and I think you're going to like this fact. So, in the middle of the 19th century, they took 19 sex workers to the island with the hopes of getting them to stop being sex workers and start families. All right, so they took all the sex workers there, thought they'd meet up the prisoners, they would probably fall in love, they'd start families, and then when they went back into society, they'd have a wife, they'd be able to, go back into regular life.
Terrible idea.
Do you know what actually happened?
What?
The sex workers started performing sexual favours for rum so they could get drunk.
Always a hustle.
And they ended up with a syphilis pandemic on the island.
Oh, my God.
I told you I found that way funny than I should have, but
Incredible.
just the government back then going, this is a great idea, and then a couple of years later, this hasn't panned out how we expected.
Wow. So anyway, back to the story of poor old Dreyfus. So he's stuck on Devil's Island, and then his wife, who believes in his innocence, goes to see Zola.
Yes.
Yeah, with the intent of trying to spark some interest and raising some noise to look into her husband's case.
Yeah. One small thing happens before then. Not that it changes what you've said, but there's some new evidence that comes out right before that.
Yeah.
And they've pretty much narrowed down who it is.
Yeah.
They put him on trial and clear him, exonerate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but they go. Dreyfus' wife goes to see Zola
Because at this point, the military don't want to be seen to have made a mistake because they don't make mistakes.
They don't know.
They don't want to admit any wrongdoing, so they're double, triple downing on their idea that it's Dreyfus, right?
Yes.
Despite information to the contrary, which they had internally for a long period of time before this thing escalated.
Yeah.
So the wife goes to Zola, provides some misinformation. Zola's like, this is a total injustice here, totally agree. Makes a lot of noise and then ends up writing a letter to the President of the Republic.
Yes. And what does that cause to happen in the city?
Oh boy, some noise. So it gets on all the front page of papers. Some powerful words in there, again, criticising the military, the government, to the president in order to, try and get some action. So it's intense for that time.
Yes, yeah. And it breaks out in an all-out riot.
Yes. Big riot. So at this point as well, they really want to punish Zola now. So they actually charge him.
Yeah.
What was the crime they charged him with? Some bullshit charge.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like conspiracy or
something like that.
It's gonna be some ye old timey word that means conspiracy.
They want to make an example out of Zola for what he's done, and so it's building now into this court case of him protecting himself, right?
Yeah, but also kind of defending Draper at the same time
because the issues are connected, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what they want to do is they're planning this defense, and he's got this real wisecrack of a lawyer, and they're wanting to talk about the Dreyfus case and introduce evidence on that matter and talk to people about it because they're very much connected to the issue that Zola's now been charged with, but the court and the government don't want to talk about the Dreyfus case.
No, and let's talk about some of those bits in a bit more detail. So Zola's in court. They're trying to call up all of the military people to testify.
Yep.
And each person from the military has signed some piece of information saying someone else can't testify.
Who's your first witness?
The Minister of War.
I have here a letter from the Minister of Justice. He declines to allow the Minister of War to testify in this case.
I will call the Chief of General Staff.
The Chief of Staff regrets that the Minister of War will not allow him to testify.
So it's like, we call upon such and such. And then the judge is like, no, they can't testify because such and such signed a treaty saying they can't.
It's all about, we can't talk because of national security and all that rubbish.
Yeah. Mrs. Draper comes onto the stand and every question they try and ask her is not allowed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
So they've pretty much made a ruling that anything to do with the Dreyfus case would just be, not admissible, and they just wouldn't talk about it. And it's bullshit. The lawyer's trying to call it out. The movie's now turned into a full courtroom drama, right?
Yeah.
So it's getting actually interesting now. Now I'm invested. The lawyer's spicy. The judge is spicy. The conditions are spicy. It's getting good. And I found it funny too. So I recently watched another banger of a movie, only this year, late last year, called The Fall, which is a French movie. And in there, the courtroom setup of the French courtroom is still very similar to what it was back then in this movie we watched.
It's probably the same courtroom.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
the
the judges on, that table in front of them higher up with that kind of little stand where the speaker sits. I guess in Western framing of our mind, it's one judge and he sits there, and then to his direct left is a little booth where the person sits. Whereas not in the French courtroom, there's like multiple judges or whatever the hell they are, and they look down on like a little platform where each speaker or witness or the accused stands in to speak.
So I would describe it for the people at home that the person that is on, what do you call them? What's the person when the testifier? The person testifying is facing
the
judge.
Looking up.
We're in a modern courtroom that you'd see on a fabulous TV show like Jag.
Yeah. and there's also like a row of people to the left. So if you're the judge looking down to the left of them, there's like another pew of people, and I think it's like the lawyers and other people, and then behind the person testifying in the middle looking down is where people the audience sits, like in any other courtroom you can imagine.
So like in the modern courtroom, the person testifying would be to the left of the judge and talking out to the jury. The jury would normally be on their left.
But it's the structure of it is the same even now.
The French, they do things strangely. The next person to come onto the stand is the general. No, not the general. I wrote general and then recorrected it. He's a colonel. He won't answer any questions and then just makes up a bunch of lies.
They're all stonewalling the lawyer and the entire case. They're not wanting to talk. Anytime something spicy comes up that might hurt them, they just say, national security, we can't talk about it.
They're going in and out of court over multiple days. They kind of montage it to a degree. And then Zola starts this speech. And I wrote, Zola speaks and speaks and speaks.
Yeah, he's got a big monologue section, right? Talking about to the jury mainly to say, how important it is and what's going on. And kind of just before that, the defense was gathering some steam for Zola's case, and the military guys kind of picked up on that, and then kind of late in the piece said, "Oh, hey, we've actually got definitive evidence that Dreyfus is the right guy because we've got this letter that's marked with the letter D, and that's how we know it's Dreyfus in addition to the older evidence, and it's bulletproof, but we can't present that evidence for national security reasons." And they just, the defense are losing their mind. Like, this is nonsense, right? But that idea is now planted in the jury's minds. So, there is evidence, they just can't display it, right?
Yeah.
And there's this trust in the military and the government, so they kind of take him at their word. And then he has the big monologue speech to try and make a last-ditch effort to have them see sense.
Yeah, I do have something to add about that monologue speech. Do you know how long it went for?
I would say like 7 minutes.
6 minutes.
That's pretty close.
Do you know they did it in one take?
Yeah, it was one take, wasn't it?
That is impressive. That
was.
actor remembered that many lines. I can't even get out 6 words in a row
Yeah.
on a good day.
I have to start calling you Gerald.
We're not making Clarkson Farm references.
But he's the original Mushmouth.
He's not a mushmouth. You just can't understand him because of his accent.
I can't tell. I can't tell if he's mushmouthing or if he actually can't speak English or if he just has an accent.
Okay.
So back to the movie. So he does that monologue, and then it's going in for the verdict. And what's the verdict, Barrett?
He's found guilty.
Yeah.
And he's told he's going to go to prison for a year.
Yeah.
He tries to appeal.
All his appeals fail.
Yes. Then he gets told by Paul? What's his old friend's name?
Oh, yeah, his old
He
friend.
gets told by Paul to run away to England where they can't get him.
Emile, you must leave France immediately.
Leave France?
Yes. Go into hiding. England. Any place where they can't get at you.
Run away like a common criminal? Do you know what you're saying?
Yeah, so sentenced to a year in prison, and then, they're trying to say, like, run away to England where they can't get you and do it that way. But initially, like, the wife and Zola are like, no, we're not running away from this. That's not who we are. We're going to face this head on. But then Paul's trying to explain to him, like, you can do more good by running away so you can continue to write than you can being a martyr.
Yeah. So anyways, he's very against the idea of running away. Next scene, he's in England. Then you say, well, I guess he ran away.
Yeah.
And once he's in England, he is free to continue just writing.
And that he does.
He causes all sorts of problems. So much so that we've now got, or so much time passes, he's causing problems. We now end up with a new war minister.
Yes.
And he is onto the truth.
Yes.
And he wants the truth to come out because he's sick of the army getting portrayed in such a poor way.
And there's an injustice here.
Yep, he's sick of them being in the media. He just wants this whole thing to go away. Let's get it ironed out. So I'm trying to remember what happens next.
I'm trying to remember the next part now too.
So the new minister
Yes.
has all of the colonel and like all of the senior people that have been involved in all of this conspiracy all this time, and basically fires them all and tells the colonel that he's going to be prosecuted, to which the colonel just...
Because I guess an important point in all this is at this time, internally they're like, we know this document that we said was the silver bullet of evidence is a forgery.
Yeah.
They know it's a forgery, right?
Yes.
And that's when he's trying to get some action on it to say, like, this is going to come out eventually. This is a forged document.
Yes, yeah.
I give you one last chance to tell the truth. Did you forge this letter? Yes.
So the colonel is going to be arrested but ends up just committing suicide.
He does.
The Dreyfus case is reopened, and there's a scene where Zola almost cries. Like, he's so happy that has happened.
Yep.
Dreyfus returns to France from.
Well, he's exonerated, so he's free.
Brings his syphilis back to. back to France.
Yep.
And he seems very confused about his new freedom.
Yeah.
And this, I added just a little note in here because, man, my brain works in some weird ways. When I was a kid, right, grew up on a farm.
Here we go.
I think I've spoke about this a few times.
Not Clarkson's farm, Barrett's farm.
Yes, the Barrett's farm.
Anyways, would have been a great TV show.
Probably. Anyways, we had chickens, but instead of getting chickens from, I don't know where you could get chickens from. I don't know. Instead of getting like baby,
you're the farm boy. You tell me.
Well, you can go buy baby chicks. Right?
Okay. Yep.
Instead of getting baby chicks, my mum would always go and get the ex-battery hens. Battery?
Okay.
Okay.
Where is this going?
So, hens that have been caged their entire life and just forced to lay eggs.
I thought you said we weren't going to talk about Clarkson's farm.
Wait, just hear me out. Right?
Okay.
So these chickens, right, horrible process, only buy free-range eggs.
Yep.
Right, if you've ever been to one of these battery places, it's horrible. They're all caged up. They can't move. We would get the chickens, put them in a box, put them in a car, take them home, and then introduce them to the farm where they were free to roam wherever they wanted. They could eat worms and they just had the best life.
Yeah.
Right? They got locked up every night, protected from Foxy Loxy, so they didn't come and eat them. Good life for a chicken. You put them out of the cardboard box on the ground, they were confused for at least 3 days.
Oh, they wouldn't leave the box.
They didn't know how to walk. They didn't know how to move. It really reminded me of that moment where he's coming out of his prison cell after 5 or 6 years.
Fair enough.
And he doesn't know what to do. He's allowed to move again.
Chicken.
He's just a confused chicken.
Yeah, he was.
Buy free range eggs.
Yes. No, fair enough. And he didn't actually explain it in the movie, but I did look up how long he was actually in prison for. Did you see this?
No.
So total time, 12 years he was in prison for.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's exactly why he was like a chicken.
Yeah.
That's your Barrett fact for this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So he's released, and as he's released, heading back to France, Zola, hearing this news, also heads back to France. There's going to be a ceremony where he's kind of, shown to the public that he's a free man. He's getting some sort of award as well for, I guess, being wrongfully incriminated. I would want a bit more than an award, but anyway.
Yeah.
And he's getting reintroduced into the army and stuff. So Zola's on his way back. He's back in his old home in France, and
he's writing a book. Do you have that? Yep.
Well, I'll get to that. So he's back home. He's super excited. The following day is the ceremony to, show off Dreyfus and his big return.
So this is the night before.
This is the night before.
Yeah.
And he's also just really pumped in general because he feels like he's succeeded, and he's talking to his wife. He's feeling, rejuvenated. He's an older man now anyway, but he's rejuvenated. He just wants to write and write and write. He's got all his ideas for all his books. So he starts just pumping out these pages, and then he's looking a bit funny. It zooms in on his face, and then it cuts a couple times to his little stove thing that he's got nearby, and some smoke's coming off it, and it looks like the seal is broken, and he's looking like he's getting disoriented, and I'm like, what's going on here? I had to look it up because it didn't really explain it too well in the movie in that scene. So Zola, his demise, his ultimate death, was the result of him inhaling carbon monoxide poisoning or being exposed to carbon monoxide caused by a faulty stove the night before the public ceremony in which Dreyfus is exonerated. So he died from his stove the night before the ceremony. What are the chances?
It's because he sealed up his window so well.
Exactly. None of the fumes could get out, and he accidentally fucking poisoned himself. Wild.
What happens next? Dreyfus returns to the army and is exonerated.
The judges of the Court of Revision, having unanimously agreed that Alfred Dreyfus was and is innocent of the charges brought against him, have in acquitting him reversed the verdict of the former court.
Yep, they announced Zola's dead, and happy days.
Yeah. A couple of points I wanted to add into this. So his return to the army in real life, so we're about 1900 at this point, at the end of the movie. He went on to serve in World War I.
Oh, wow.
Along with his son.
Yeah, wow.
Yep. And actually ended up dying in 1935 at 75 years old.
Well, did all right.
Good innings for someone in the 30s.
Yeah, especially, being probably malnourished and poorly maintained and, Devil's Island.
Yeah.
with all the syphilis and stuff.
Yeah.
Well done.
It's just all those sex workers he was surrounded by.
Yeah.
I did actually have another point. So Zola was buried. Obviously, he died. He was buried in 1908. And he was moved 5 years later. They dug him up and moved him to a temple in Paris. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the temple, so I've used the word temple to describe it. It had a P, it had a letter with a funny squiggle above it, like the E with the, the French.
Fair enough.
Weird with the words. So they moved him there, but someone tried to shoot Dreyfus at the second funeral.
Wow.
And only managed to shoot him in the arm.
God, this guy can't catch a break.
Yeah, it was a journalist that didn't like how the story was portrayed, tried to shoot Dreyfus, only managed to get him in the arm, went to court, and then pleaded, because he missed, he pleaded that he only ever intended to shoot him in the arm,
Smart.
and he got away with, just assault, essentially, not murder, or attempted murder.
Big brain move, that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's some of the movie, we might add. That's a little additional footnote. I didn't know that. It's cool.
Oh, yeah, so all of that happened. So basically, Dreyfus returns to the army. Anything that I said beyond that was just my brain rambling.
No, it's good, but that's really the end of the movie. So, the only other fact that I had in all this too, Barrett, was, I was reading some of the production into making the movie, and it seemed like the key producer in this movie had a lot of blues when they were making it. Yeah, it sounded like it was an absolute nightmare. They had to do all these reshoots because they would change actors. They couldn't agree on certain actors, and it sounded like it was an absolute nightmare to make.
Yeah, I did read a lot of that stuff as well, yeah.
But look, they got it made, and I suppose from my point of view, overall, like I said, I really struggled the first half of the movie. I was not enjoying it. It was hard to stay focused. But for me, it definitely picked up the second half when it turned into a courtroom drama and got a bit more spicy. It became more enjoyable.
It did, yeah. The movie really picked up.
Yeah.
And we were halfway into this, and I was like, where is this going?
Yeah, where is it going, right? Because you just, because we don't know this character going in, right? Like if they made a movie now, it was about John Howard, right? Then, you're going to know enough about him to be interested, right? To his backstory. But we don't know this guy, so we just weren't invested, I felt, in this character until we understood more of what was happening.
Yeah. Who do you reckon they get to play John Howard?
That's a good question.
Will they get the Spud guy? Tony, what's his name? Who's the Spud Shed guy with the big eyebrows?
No.
He's the only guy with big enough eyebrows to match John Howard's.
We'll have a think about this. Anyway. It really picked up for me. But did you have any more facts?
No, that's the end of my facts.
Well, this gets to my favourite part of the podcast, mate.
Yeah, once again, I've not thought about this at all until this exact moment.
And we never share to each other. It's another key part of this podcast. We tell each other going in blind what our score is. And I did decide yesterday what it was going to be. And I revisited it today and it hasn't changed.
Yeah. I'm torn. I'm somewhere between a 2 and a 2.5 because the first half was bad.
Well, Barrett,
it only just freight trained itself back in towards the end.
As always, I'm going to mark on here so you know that what I rated it is true.
It would be a solid 2.
How many Barretts out of 5, Barrett?
2.5.
You're going to settle on 2.5?
I'm going to settle on 2.5.
Fair enough. Okay. I gave it 2.
Oh! We're pretty close. Once again, yeah.
Yep. So 2 stars felt fair to me. I think it wasn't definitely not the best movie we watched so far, and I wouldn't watch it again. But like I said, it picked up in the second half, and some parts were interesting, so enough to keep me invested, but not enough to thrill me. 2 stars.
I was recently asked, of all the movies you've seen so far, because we're kind of a big deal now. I don't know if you...
Huge.
But for all the movies you've watched so far, what would you recommend? And...
It happened one night.
It happened one night.
Yeah.
It's the one that you could just sit down, watch, and it's actually an enjoyable movie.
It's just an easy watch.
Our next movie is You Can't Take It With You, and it's supposed to be a comedy.
It's not Gone with the Wind?
No.
Okay.
Oh, man. There's been some confusion around the list, but I think I've got it all ironed out. The next movie definitely is You Can't Take It With You, and then it's Gone with the Wind, and then Rebecca. I got Rebecca and Gone with the Wind around the wrong way in my planning.
Okay.
But So You Can't Take It With You is a comedy, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then Gone with the Wind is 4 hours long. So
Oh, God. That's going to be a slog.
yeah, we did intend on having a guest for this episode. They bailed. Thanks, Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell.
And we do intend on having Mandy back for Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless we get enough feedback to say that she's not wanted back.
Yeah, and that's my last 2 points that I want to bring up. Please, you're listening on some of our platforms. We're getting, I don't want to reveal the real numbers, but we're getting like 30 or 40 listens on YouTube at the moment.
It's huge.
We
started at 0.
We did. We're getting, mid-20s on Spotify and other platforms. So in my mind, people aren't hating this. We're getting repeat people coming back and a couple of new people here and there. Give us some feedback.
Yeah.
All right. There's an Instagram.
What do you want more of? What do you want less of?
Feel free to send the Instagram a message.
Yeah.
Abuse, whatever. If you want to send profanity, send it. If you want to send Alex a nude, send it.
And look, if you want to reach out to me privately, just comment the number 1, and that will inform me that you want me to boot Barrett off the podcast.
Why are you the number 1?
Just secretly message me the number 1, and we'll know. We'll
also,
take it.
if you could give us a like on YouTube, also helps.
Boom.
I made it. I'm rambling now, but I do want to make a point. In the first episode, how we, you mocked this podcast that had a similar name, and said they weren't going anywhere. Yeah, so I tried to search for us on YouTube the other day off my normal YouTube account.
Yeah.
You can't find us because all of the results that come up are them, and their videos are averaging about 1.5 million views per video.
You told me they weren't going anywhere. You told me that we're like bugger all.
No, that's not what happened. So give us a like and help us slowly take down the colossal giants. It's going to be what's the Bible story about the giant and the kid with the rock?
Here's some quick maths.
David and Goliath.
We started at 0. We're now at like 40. That's 40 times increase. If we just keep going up by that 40 times increase every time for the next 12, 18 months, we'll catch them eventually.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go somewhere. Hopefully, if we can just keep sharing. A bit of feedback would really be appreciated if
Absolutely.
you've made it.
And remember, the number 1. That's how I'll know.
Send the number 2 if you want me to replace Alex with another Alex, because I've got plans for that as well.
Don't be silly.
Give us a like, give us some feedback. That'd be really appreciated. Follow our socials.
But to conclude, so another movie down. I've just gone up the Life of Emile Zola. 1937 winner for Best Picture. Did it win anything else, actually? I forgot to look.
It was nominated. We're off now. It was nominated for 10 Academy Awards.
Wow, but only won 1.
I think it won like 5 or something.
Oh, shit.
It was the first movie to enter the double digits for nominations.
Oof, glad we mentioned it. Glad I asked. So, The Life of Emile Zola. I gave it 2. Barrett gave it 2.5. Okay, watch. Wouldn't watch again, but not angry I watched it.
Yeah. So, look forward to next week. You Can't Take It With You. Look even more forward to the week after, where you meet 2 people that have been drinking beers for 4 hours and trying to do a podcast.
Yes, and our special edition episode of Clarkson Farm.
We're not doing, reviewing Clarkson's Farm. All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.